Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Sarjun. I'm a data science trainer, a lecturer, and an industry practitioner in this field, and a mentor to the youth. This is the 9th in the series of basic R programming course. Before we start, I would like to seek your cooperation to follow me on my socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and send me a message, DM, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much. With that said, we will get on to today's lecture. Okay, so today's lecture, we're going to be looking at, let me get my stuff ready here. Flow control part 2. So we already did if conditionals. So today we're going to be looking at flow control, right? Flow control part 2. We've already covered if. If you have not covered if conditions in the previous lecture, please go back and view them, right? Today we're going to be covering flow controls. We're going to be looking at while loops, for loops, break, and next. Okay, so as usual, I'm going to run this code to suppress my warnings because there may be certain warnings or certain things which kind of is irritating when I'm teaching, right? Usually because they're deprecated and all that, but because I created some codes and usually they don't happen when you're teaching, but I'm just doing it because I don't want to see something pop up suddenly, unless it's really a serious error, right? Okay, let's look. So while loops. So what are while loops? So while loops are loops that execute a specific block of code repetitively. As long as the text expression is valid, the loop will execute the specific block of code. The loop is used if there is no specific number of times the block of code has to be executed. So it's like a while loop, right? I mean, think of it this way. Whenever you are out and your parents are calling you, right? So your mom or your dad will call you whenever you're out, right? When you're outside, they will call you, hey, where are you? Are you coming back home? So while you are out, they're going to call you. The moment you reach home, that while expression expires. If you're at home, I doubt they will call you, but they wouldn't be calling you on your phone, right? They will just call out to you, right? But they wouldn't be calling you. They wouldn't be calling you on your phone, right? Because that while expression times out. That condition is no longer valid, right? So that's the point here, right? As long as there is a valid condition, like as I said, you're outside, or there might be other reasons, right? So let's look at a simple example on how this works, and then you will get a better understanding and a better appreciation of this as well. Okay, let's create a variable num, num, equals to 10, right? I want to assign a variable num. I want to assign another variable, addition, with the value 0. So addition, I want to assign it with the value 0, right? The aim of this program, why am I doing this, is to find all the summation of natural numbers till the number 10 value. So it's going to take all the values from 1 all the way until 10 and keep adding them, right? And find what's the total value, right? So that's the main aim of this, right? So the condition here is while the number is until 10, it's going to 10 or while the number is 10 or equals to 10, less than 10, as long as it's less than 10 or equals to 10, it will run. The moment it's more than 10, that function will stop. It will not run. It will not fulfill the condition, and then it will just exit the loop. So let's see how that works. So I create a num, which is 10, addition, which is equal to 0, and counter, in this case, which is equals to 1, right? Create a while loop that has the condition in parentheses of counter smaller than or equal to num. This is a very important condition, right? The then sum addition with counter to the total to sum addition with counter to total to the addition. So basically, I'll explain to you what I'm trying to do, and then increment counter with the value of 1. So every time you're going to increment the counter value of 1. So how this is going to be done? Let me show you. So while, so this is the while loop. Counter. So now counter is 1, right? Counter is less than equals to num. So here, the first iteration, counter is 1, num is 10. Obviously, this is true, right? I open my curly braces. This is what I do while this condition is true. So everything inside the condition, inside these curly braces will occur as long as this condition is true. So addition is equals to addition plus counter. So in the first round, counter is 1, addition is 0, right? So as long as counter is 1 is less than or equals to 10, which is true, it'll go inside here. It'll make addition, which is 0, 0, which is also again 0, plus counter, which is 1, right? And after it runs that code, it will say counter. I need to increment counter with the value of 1. So I need to set my counter equals to counter plus 1. So every round, counter is going to increase 1 round. 1, 1, 1, and so on. So first iteration, counter will be 1. The next iteration, counter will be 2. The next iteration, counter will be 3. It will just keep increasing by 1 every single time, right? Every single iteration, it will just keep increasing. And then I'm going to print the sum of my final value. So sum, I'm going to print addition, okay, I'm going to print out addition, right? And END is equals to /n. You know that as usual, when you do a cat, you need to do a /n, and you run this. So when I run this cell, you can see that my output is 55. So how does that happen? So the first time around, when it's 1, which is less than 10, addition is 0 plus 1, addition becomes 1. Counter is 1 plus 1, which is 2, and then it goes back in again. So 2 is less than equals to 10. And then addition now is 1. It will add 1 plus 2, which is 3, and then counter will become 2 plus 1, which will become 3 as well. So it will keep adding, right? It might be quite difficult to see it in this particular loop. So what I did was I did a modified version for you to see every single round of its run, right? So let's see how that works. So let's do that again. This one will be more clearer. So again, I'm doing num equals to 10. I do an addition equals to 0. Initial value, counter equals to 1 as my initial value, right? Now, while, again, counter, right, is less than or equals to num, right? I will run this code. So let me do this. Let me see my counter, right? My counter. So this is, and I'm going to do a counter run. So this is what is the number of run that is going through, right? And then I'm going to do a addition. My addition equals to or assigned to addition plus. You should know how to do the plus counter. So it's the same. It has the same code. It's just that I have more rows here to explain what I'm doing, right? Addition value. So this is the addition value, right? And then I do a counter equals to counter. I need to increment it by 1, right? That's the requirement, right? And then I do a cat just to split between my different iterations until I just want to split between my different iterations. And that's it. I print the final value of my code, which is cat, the addition is the final addition value at the end. That's it. Right, when I run this, you can see in the first counter run, addition value is 1. The second counter run, my addition value is 2. In the third counter run, my addition value is 6. The fourth counter run, my addition value is 10. In the fifth counter run, my addition value is 15. So you can see that happens. I keep adding, right? And my counter is increasing by 1, 3. So you can see that my addition, the first round is 1, because 0 plus counter 1, it becomes 1. Second round is, this one is 1, and then my counter is 2. So 1 plus 2, my addition becomes 3, right? And then the next round, my counter is basically 3. So 3 plus 3 is 6. So 3 plus 3 is 6. So you can see 4 plus 6 plus 4 gives me 10. 10 plus 5 will give me 15. Right, 15, which is the addition value, plus the next counter run, which is 6, gives me 21. 21 plus 7, which is the counter value, gives me 28. 28 plus 8, which is the counter value for that run, 8 run, you'll give me 36. And 36 plus 9 will give me 45. And 45 plus 10 will give me 55. After which it will exit its loop because the value counter will hit 11. And the moment 11 is no longer less than or equals to 10, which is the num value, it will exit this loop. So that's how this while loop works. Okay? Yep. Okay. So that's basically a simple while loop. Okay, let's look at an interactive while loop. Let's look at something a bit more interactive, right? Let's just say what I mean by interactive. So let's say we leave the user to play around with the while loop. So let's just say reply, create a value, a variable reply with the value continue within it, right? Within it, just to show you, right? So we can do while, okay, and to be sure, to lower reply. So we want to know, make sure that whatever reply you put in to lower is not equals to, as long as it's not equals to stop. So only when you stop, you will stop executing this. If it's not equals to stop, you will keep doing this. So you reply, you keep asking for a read line prompt, right? And the prompt is, please enter a text, right? That is it. Now, after this, I just do a cat. I want to show you the while loop has exited its execution, end, okay, execution, end equals to /n. That's it. Right now, if I run this, it's going to ask you for a text, right? If I put hello, it will still keep asking me. Why? Stop asking this. Still asking me. How am I going to, why you still asking questions? It still ask you, right? Until you type stop. The moment you type stop, it will exit this loop, and the while, okay, typo here, and the while loop will run. So let's say, hello, why can you stop? It will not stop, right? Until you just explicitly, this is crazy. It will keep typing, whatever, it will keep asking you until you explicitly type stop. The while loop has exited its execution. Okay? Okay. Quick practice for you, right? Take 5 minutes, use a while loop to ask user for input of his name. Exit the loop if the name is equal to Mike. Then display the statement, the while loop has exited has exited the completed its execution. Has exited and completed. Right. Has exited its exited. Something the way, right? The while loop has exited and has completed, just to be its execution. It's code execution, just to be clearer. Right, so you can do something like that. While loop has, so let me just copy this, just to be consistent. Yep. Okay, so the while loop has exited and has completed its code execution. Right, just to be exact. Okay, try this out and we will resume very soon. Okay, how do we handle this? Right, firstly, it's going to ask, you're going to put in an input name, right? Obviously, you can't set it to Mike. You just have to set it to an empty string, right? Just to do that, right? Don't put equals. See, this is why you shouldn't put equals. You should put assigning it this way, right? And then we set while input name in brackets, possibly input name, sorry, equals to, nope, let me do a double bracket, because we are only supposed to exit the loop if it's not equals to. So as long as not equals to Mike, right, you can just input name, read line, keep asking for it, prompt, right, prompt, please enter the name, right, and then I'll just copy this from here just to avoid any spelling mistakes. Yep. So if I run this, as long as the number, the name is not Mike, it will not exit. So I just call it Sam, it will still run. Mary, it will still run. Mike, it will exit. So my code works. Moving on. Oops, I think I moved too fast here. Okay, for loops. So similar to for loops, okay. So sorry, similar to while loops, for loops is used to iterate over the items of a variable or object. The iteration will continue based on the number of times specified or based on the number of items within the variable or object. Both for loops and while loops can be nested within another while loop or for loop, right? So that's something that can be done for for loops and while loops as well, right? So let's look at an example. So the aim of this program again is to find the summation of all natural numbers from 1 to 10 using a for loop method, right? So similar to what we did earlier, but this time we're using the same thing, but this time we're doing it with for loop instead of while loop. So let's do number. So this time around we need a sequence, right? Because for while loop you can do a while less than it, but for loop you need to have the sequence 1 to 10. You need to have that sequence created. So you need to create a sequence variable 1 to 10, right? Then you do an addition. Addition here again is equal to 0. But you notice for a for loop, you don't need a counter because the counter is already within the for loop here itself because it's already 10 values. So we will automatically loop through 10 values. So for loop, which takes takes in the reference variable, in this situation, the variable counter. The counter itself is factored inside the sequence. So this variable counter take on a different value through each iteration, right? So in this, starting with value 1, 2, 3 until 10, right? So at each iteration, the sum when you sum the addition with the counter value, you are actually doing it within this number itself. It already has that value 1 to 10 itself, right? So at each iteration, you're going to sum it and the total value is reassigned to the addition variable, right? Then display the variable addition value, right? So how that works is very simple. So firstly, for, so we do a counter in number, for counter in number, right? So this is going to go through every iteration. First round, the counter is going to take the value 1. The next round, the counter is going to take the value 2. The next round, the counter is going to take the value 3, so on and so forth, right? And that's how it's going to work. So in this case, because for while loop, this differs, right? Because we have to be more explicit here. We know that the first round is going to take the first value, second value. So why not, to make it easier, I do a print of counter, right? And then you will see that when I run this, you can see it's quite straightforward. When I just do a quick example, this number sequence is just taking for counter in number print counter. So the first round is going to take 1, second round 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's direct, very simple, right? But that's not what we are asked to do, right? It's just to show you that what it is doing, right? So what we're supposed to do is do an addition, right? We want to set addition plus counter, right? So basically we are setting addition plus counter, and then finally, that's all. We just need to cat. This may seem very, very easy, but what's happening is there's a lot of behind the scenes that's happening, right? And you know what's happening as well. If you don't worry, I'll clarify it in the next code, right? You can see that addition is 55. It's the same. The output is the same as the earlier one when we do the while loop until it's 55, right? Right, until it's 55. Addition is 55, right? Now, let's do the same thing, but a bit more modified, right? With each iteration. We want to be a lot more, we want to see everything with a lot more precision. So again, seq 1, 10, right? Addition equals to 0. Simple as that. Again, we're going to do for counter in number. Simple as that. Okay, so we're going to loop through this. Let's print counter, like what we did earlier, right? And then we do a counter run, right? END equals to /n, right? First we print this as well, then we do the addition equals to addition plus counter, right? Simple. Then we do a cat addition to show you the addition value, right? And then END. And then we do a, just to split between the various iterations, to show you the difference between the various iterations. And then we display the variable, finally, cat ADDIO addition is, again, we do END, it goes to N. When we run this, you can see in the first counter run, the value is 1. Second counter run is 1 plus 2 equals to 3. The third counter run is going to be 3 plus 3, the previous value gives you 6. Then the next counter run, which is 6 plus 4, 10, 10 plus 5, 15, 15 plus 6, 21, 21 plus 7, 28, 28 plus 8, 36, and 45, and 55. Okay, there's an error here. I think my error is this N here, which I typed wrongly. Okay, so now it should work. So my final addition value is 55. Right. So other than that, it works. Right, it works perfectly fine. Okay, so in an example, you need the number to start from 1 and end at a specific value. You can iterate over the sequence of 10 numbers, 1 to 10 with step 1. In this case, we can also do that. Sorry, I think I pressed something wrong here. So sorry. Okay, so just want to show you something about sequence. You can do a for, right? X in SEQ 1, 10, 1, right? You can do a print X. So this will take from X 1 to 10, instead of 1 to 10 is basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, right? It will print X in each iteration. So it'll give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. So this I've done already, but I want to show you what if your steps is not 1, right? What if your steps is to iterate over 6 numbers, like you want to jump over 6 numbers, right? So let's see something different. For X in SEQ, okay, 1 to 35, I want to jump them by a number of 6, right? So I want to print X. So here, remember, the first value is always 1, right? So the first value is 1. After 6 numbers, it's going to be 7, right? It's not 6. So a lot of people always think after 1, 6 numbers should be 6. No, it's not true. After 1, 5 numbers is 6. So please remember the difference. You need to know when is 1 and when is 6. And after that, 5 numbers is 11, right? So if you want like 6, 12, 18, then you should start from 0, not from 1. So be careful of your numbers running as well, right? So here you see 1, 7, 13, 19, 25, 31, right? What if you want multiples of 6? Okay, there are many ways of how you get multiples of 6, right? Method, I'll show you the different methods, okay? And then you can see how you can do it, right? If you just want multiples of 6, right? This is an example. You can use it across from other numbers as well. So for X, this is the basic one in sequence. So I'm going to go through every single value from 1 to 35. 1. Okay, I'm going to do if, right? If, I think this one you should remember, if X percentage 6, okay, is equals to 0, right? So I'm using a if condition here. So as long as if the remainder is divided by 6 equals 0, then you print X. So this is a clear-cut example, right? If I run this, you will know that as long as it can divide by 6 and give you a remainder. This one gives you remainder. Remainder is 0 means it's a factorial of 6, right? It's a multiple of 6 factorial. Multiple of 6, right? So 6, you will know that 6 is the 6 divided by 6 gives you a remainder of 0. 12 divided by 6 gives you a remainder of 0. 18 divided by 6 gives you a remainder of 0, so on and so forth. 24 divided by 6 gives you a remainder of 0 as well. So, and 30 divided by 6 gives you a remainder of 0. Right? The other method, the limitation of this method is that the first output is always 0, and if there is an if-else statement implemented, remove it, right? Then you can do. So this one is a bit more, slightly more different. So how this works is you can do for X. So for X, let me try for X in sequence. Okay, so this one I'm going to do 0. I'm going to start with 0 till 35 with steps of 6. So this is also one way of how you can get that value with not much if-else statement. But the problem with this is your first value is always 0, right? So unless you start with 6 as your first value, then it starts with 6, right? But if you want to start with 0, then 0 will also be printed, right? So you need to also understand that as well, right? Okay, moving on. The use of for loop, but with string reference values. So let's see how that works. So the use of for loop, but with string reference values instead. Okay, we need to create a vector variable name vector with the C function with Jack, Matthew, John, Timothy, and Nicholas, right? And the name, this is the, so when I say this, please do not use this bracket. It's supposed to be this bracket, right? This can be interchangeably used wrong, right? Then use a for loop to loop through each item to print out good morning as the first item and the name as the second item, right? The item lah, basically. So name vector, simply use the C function, which is your vector function, right? Jack is the first name, Matthew is the second name, John is the third name, Timothy is the fourth, wrong spelling, and Nicholas is the, oops, not in string, should be a string, right? With that said, you can do a for loop. So for name value, so I call it name value, right? In name vector cat good morning, right? Name value and end equals to /n. Let's run this. And it prints good morning, Jack. So it goes to the first round. It takes name value as Jack. It takes good morning and passing the name value as Jack. And the next round, it goes name value goes to Matthew. They say good morning, Matthew. Then it goes one more round. It goes to John. It says good morning, John. And then it goes to the next round. It goes to good morning, Timothy. And then good morning, Nicholas. That's how it does the way that it calculates these loops. Okay, you can also do a for loop with interaction as well, right? So this is a for loop, is to run for 10 iterations, but each time with a different person name to greet based on input name, right? So this one for, so what I can do is for I in sequence, I can say 10, right? I can just use I, right? So you just do 10 times. It doesn't matter what this the values are. I'm just going to read line and print it out. So read line, prompt, please enter the name. So this is another way of how you can make it interactive. Cat, good day, right? Name, field, and every round it will change, right? This value will change, right? And then, oops, sorry, let me just go here, press enter. Cat, the for loop has completed its execution. As simple as that. N equals to, just to be consistent, I will do this as well. Right, so let me run this. It says the first person's name. Let me call it Matt. Next person, I need to do it 10 times, okay? Matt, Jack, Nick, Grace, Andy, Cass, Susan, Giles, Ben, Keely. You can see, after I run the 10, it's already printing out for me. Good morning, Matt. Good morning, Jack. Good morning, Nick. Good morning, Grace. So on and so forth until good day, Keely. Then the for loop has completed its execution. You can see that it's doing for every single one. So every round, its iteration is going through this Matt, Jack, Nick, Grace, Andy, Cass, Susan, Giles, Ben, and Keely. Actually, it's already printing at the back end. It's just that only after we run it is it displaying it anyway. Right, but that's besides the point. It's already running as well. Okay, quick practice for you. Create a vector variable greetings vector with good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Then create a vector variable name vector with Jack, Matthew, John, Timothy, and Nicholas. Okay, maybe let me be, okay lah, so it's okay, never mind. Okay, and then use a for loop to print out good morning as the first item, and then the item as the second item, which is the name for all the elements in the name vector. Then use the same thing for good afternoon, and then good evening. So this is using a nested for loop technique, right? So you try this out, and we pause the video and try out, and then go through with the answers. Okay. Okay, how do we handle this question? So basically, it's asking you to create a for loop within a for loop. But before that, you create the greetings vector, which is equals to C, right? Good morning. These are all the greetings vector. And then good afternoon. And then good evening. Right? And then you create the name vector. Okay, for the purpose of the name vector, I'm not going to copy it because I already have it earlier. So I'm just going to copy this instead. Right? And I'm going to paste this here. Right? Simple. Okay, and I'm going to do for a nested for loop. For greeting in greetings vector, right? For person name in name vector. What I'm going to do, I'm going to do a cat greeting and person name end equals to /n, and I'm going to, that's all, right? At the end, I just want to print out this, the for loop has completed its execution. I copy it from here just to know that I have done this for loop has come to an end. So let me run this. So you have good morning, Jack, good morning, Matthew, good morning, John, all the way until good evening, Nicholas, and the for loop has completed its execution, right? So that's how you solve the question. Okay, this is additional. This is for you to look at when to use for loop and when to use a while loop, right? There are many times that question pops up, right? So the question here is, every day a child gets sweets, right? In that case, a for loop is ideal, right? For number of sweet in SEQ sequence of 8, right? You do this, you print cat, okay? This is your sweet number, right? Number of sweet end equals to /n. That's it, right? At the end of it, you want to tell the child you have received all the sweets you are supposed to receive for the day, right? And end equals to end, right? And you run this, right? You see, this is sweet number 1, 2, 3, 4 until 8. Oops, it's too fast. Sorry. So you go through sweet number 1, sweet number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have received all the sweets you're supposed to receive for the day. There will be cases when the child has visited her friends and relatives and already had been given sweets, right? She's already taken some number of sweets, right? Then now the sequence is not fixed. So it starts from a value which may be more than 1, and a for loop is not ideal. In this type of situations, a while loop is ideal, right? So important, right? Let's ask the child number of sweets received already, right? Assuming the child already received some sweets. If the child didn't receive any sweet, the child is going to put in as 0. But for now, let's just do that. Yeah, and then remember this is going to come in as a S numeric, so you need to convert it to a S numeric value, right? Please enter the number of sweets you already have taken for the day. To be exact here, right? And then you need to convert it to a numeric. So you can do it as s dot numeric here, right? So that's the fastest, right? And then you can do a while loop, while number of sweets is less than 8, right? The reason why I use less than 8 is because after it's 8, you stop, right? So that's how that's how I have configured it here. So number of sweets is equals to number of sweets plus 1. So you add 1, and then you say cat, this is your sweet number, and then number of sweets received, END equals to N, and then you can do, you have received all the sweets for the day. I'm going to copy it from here instead of typing it out, right? And I can run this. So if the person has received, say, 5 sweets, so you get 6, 7, 8, and you have received all the sweets supposed to receive for the day. What if the person has received 8 sweets? You receive all the sweets supposed to receive for the day. So the code already factored for that. It's not going to add. So if you have 8, it's going to stop. It's going to exit the loop, right? The moment it's 7, right? Let's say it's 7, it will still give you 1 more sweet, right? If it's 0, it will give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? There are situations, okay, where the number is not dynamic, like it's not 8 for a day, 8 sweets max for the day. Sometimes you want to give it 2 sweets, sometimes you want to give 10 sweets, sometimes you want to give 20 sweets or 30 sweets. So this is where you need a table, or SQLDB or a MongoDB, and then use API call to query it. But that's more advanced stuff. When you're letting you know if it's dynamic, then you need to make it dynamic as well, right? Okay, moving on to break and next. So the break statement ends the loop and resumes execution at the next statement, right? So the break statement can be used in conjunction with while loops or for loops, and it's always used with a conditional statement, right? The next statement ignores all remaining statements in the iteration of the current loop and moves the control back to the beginning of the loop, right? So the next statement can be used in both while loops and for loops, and is also always used with a conditional statement. So instead of going through these theories and all that, let's do an example. Let's create a text that states programming is fun, right? Create a text variable that says programming is fun, right? And then we do a text split list, right? And we do a string split, right? String split for the text, txt, based on an empty string. So you will split by an empty string. This is how we list, not lister, list, okay? And then we do a text split vector, which is supposed to be unlist. So I think this one we covered in the previous lessons as well. Text split list. So we unlist the list, and then we do a loop for letter in text split vector if letter equals to m, right? If that's the case, we do a break, okay? If not, out of the loop, right, we do an enter here. Okay, if it's not, we print, okay, we print letter, and once it's completed, we can do print the for loop has been completed. As simple as that, right? And when we run this code, you can see that it splits it splits the programming is fun into PROGRA. The moment it hits an M, it breaks. It breaks the whole loop, exits the loop, and it comes out of it. right? So that's how it works, right? In an example, you need to continue a for loop or a while loop based on certain conditions. So let's try this example when we do it for next. Okay, so let's try next in this question. So text, similarly, programming is fun, right? And then do the same thing. So let me just copy this text split here, paste it here, as well as copy this and paste it here, right? So I need to do this. I need to do a text split list. So a text split list, string split text with the empty string, and then text split vector unlisted. And then now we need to set a counter. So the counter needs to be 0 because we're using a while loop, right? So while counter is less than, right, the length of text split vector, what do? Right, inside here, we do a counter equals to counter plus 1, right? If text split vector counter, so we're going to take out, this is where we are accessing the, remember we use this to access the particular value, equals to m, so we're accessing the vector specific value. If that is equals to m, what we're going to do is we're going to do a next, and then we're still going to carry on printing, print text split vector counter, right? We're just going to print. So we only not print it if it's equals to m. That's basically what this is doing, right? And then here, we're going to do at the end, you're going to say the while loop has been completed, just for reference purpose. So we run this, you can see it runs, so you can see what happens to the output. PROGRA, MM is missing, but it continues with ING, then a space, then is fun. So the M is only missing, so we can see that in this way, we are only not printing it when M is there. But the earlier one, when you use break, it totally stops the whole execution and breaks out of it, right? So that's the difference, right? How to incorporate a break statement in a for loop situation. So every day, a child gets 8 sweets, and in order to keep count and follow a specific sequence, a for loop is ideal. Remember to add one to your display. Okay, this one you don't have to do this. I think this one is for another context as well, so you don't have to do this too. Sorry. Okay, so assign a variable feeling well to allow the user to input if he or she is feeling well. Assign an if block in the for loop block to assess if the user is not feeling well. Then break out of the for loop. If the person is not feeling well, you break out of it. When the child is not well, it's weird to state all sweets have been received for the day. So how does this work? So let's see. So in this case, similar to what we did earlier, for number of sweets in sequence. So we did this in the earlier example when we were looking at the for loops, right? 1, right? In this case, we are the child. This is your sweet number, right? We do that. Oops. The sweet number, and then we say number of sweet, right? And then we do a END equals to /n. Okay, and then we ask the person, are you feeling well, right? We need an input from them, right? So we need a read line with a prompt that asks if are you feeling well, with inputs yes or no, obviously, right? And then we do this, we close the loop, close the parentheses, and then if to lower feeling well, right, is double equals to no, if the person is not feeling well, what do? You break out of the loop, right? And you print you have received all the sweets you are supposed to receive for the day. But as I said, it's quite weird if you were to run this, right? So if I run this, if I say, yes, I'm feeling well, first time, I'm feeling well. Second time, I'm not feeling well. So you only receive, wait, this is your sweet number 8. Let me see. Sorry, number of sweets. Sorry, I think I did this number of sweets. Okay, let me run this again. Yes, I added an S unnecessarily. Yes, and I put no. So the first time, yes. The second time, okay, so sorry, I'm supposed to do a number of sweet minus 1. This is your sweet number. Sorry, this is until 7. Right. So yes and no. Wait. Let me do this again. This one needs some review. Yeah, if it's no, then why you still do that? Okay, how do you incorporate a break statement in a for loop, right? So this is more like a everyday situation, right? So every day a child gets 8 sweets, and in order to keep count and follow a specific sequence, a for loop is ideal. So assign a variable, feeling well, to allow the user to input if he or she is feeling well. Assign an if block in the for loop block to assess if the user is feeling well, and then to break out of the for loop process. When the child is not well, it's weird to state all sweets have been received for the day. But for the first example, let's just do the basic one, and then I'll do another one where I'll cover both situations. So let's say for number of sweets, right, in sequence 1 to 8, increment by 1, right? You ask if the child is feeling well. Obviously, you need to ask whether the child is feeling well, right? And then you do a read line. You do a prompt, right? You ask, are you feeling well? Yes or no, question mark. And then, that's the first thing, right? If to lower, feeling well, right? If the child is, the feeling well is equals to no, what you do is, you break, obviously, right? If not, you definitely give the child the sweet. This is your sweet number, right? Number of sweet, right? And you do n equals to, very simply, right? And then you print, you have, sorry, with quotes, remember? You have received all the sweets you are supposed to receive for the day, right? Now, when I run this, let's say first time I'm feeling well, I put a yes. Yes. The second time I put a no. So you only receive 1 sweet because that's the only time you only receive 1 sweet. Only you're okay with the first time, but the second time when you no, you don't receive any more sweets after that. But the problem is there is a statement that says you have received all the sweets you're supposed to receive for the day, and that is a bit misleading because the child knows that the child is supposed to receive 8 sweets, right? So here is where you need to augment your for loop a bit more and make it a bit more dynamic. So sweets for day, you set this as 8, just to start off with this. So you can go to for number of sweet, right, in SEQ sequence 1. So you can do a sweets for day, right, and then 1. So this is kind of dynamic in the sense, so the program goes through the number of sweets and then it starts to find it till then, right? So if it's 5, it's 5, it's 8, it's 8. So again, you have to check whether the child is feeling well, right? Child's not feeling well, no point you give the child a sweet. So you read line, you do a prompt, you set, are you feeling well? Yes or no, right? And then you space, and then you do this, right? You close it up. If two lower, okay, I'm just doing two lower, feeling well, okay, equals to no. If the child is not feeling well, you are to break out of this, right? You break out of this, okay, and then you inform the child. If the child is okay, if the child is feeling well, which means the earlier you don't break out of the loop, this is your sweet number, right? And then you go into number of sweet, END equals to N, close it, and then if, now is where you don't want to sound stupid, right? If number of sweet, right, is double equals to 8, only when it's 8, right? Only when it's 8, you print you have received all the sweets you are supposed to receive for the day, right? You don't want to do it if you have not received 8 sweets, right? So in that case, if I were to click in yes for the first time and no for the second time, I'm only supposed to receive sweet number 1. But what if the child is okay eating all the sweets? So yes, 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 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's, you can see it's 8 times. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You receive all the sweets for the day. So this makes more sense, right? Now, how to incorporate a break statement in a for loop, right? How do you incorporate a break statement in a for loop? Every day a child gets 8 sweets, and in order to keep, okay, let me just clear this line. This line is not. So how do you incorporate a for loop in this kind of situation? How do you incorporate a break statement in a for loop? Every day a child gets 8 sweets, and in order to keep count and follow specific sequence, a for loop is ideal. Assign a variable feeling well to allow the user to input. If he or she is feeling well, assign an if block in for the for loop to access if the user is not feeling well, and then break out the loop for loop process. Incorporate an if block to check for the condition that all sweets are received. Respond no to one of the outputs. So this is basically the same thing here. So here I respond yes to all the outputs. So I'm just going to copy this. Yeah, earlier I already did both, but this is for my own reference. So I'm just going to create just no to one of the outputs. Yes, yes, no. So you only stop it here. So this is basically just a so that I remember myself that I covered both. But anyway, I covered both earlier. So there will be those cases when the child has visited her friends and relatives and already had been given sweets also. So now the sequence is not fixed. So it starts from a value which may be more than 1, and a for loop is not ideal. In this type of situations, a while loop is ideal. Assign a variable feeling well to allow the user to input if he or she is not feeling well. Assign an if block. So this is a bit different. So this is where you need to incorporate slightly something a bit more different rather than just using, so something a bit more different. So let's try this now. In this case, for a while loop is ideal, a for loop is not ideal. So let's try this. Okay, let's try number of sweets received, right? So that's going to be a s dot numeric read line. So just follow along because there will be a prompt here as well, which will ask the user to input, please enter the number of sweets that you have already taken for the day. Now, usually children are honest right? So they will tell everything, right? I mean, depends. Some children may not, but it's okay. So once I do this, I already have this situation, right? I already got the numeric number. So while number of sweets is less than 8, right? As long as less than 8, I can activate this. So number of sweets assigned to number of sweets plus 1, right? So you add 1, and then you can say, wait, you do not give the sweet first, right? You still need to check first, right? You need to check whether the child is feeling well. You check whether the child is feeling well. You ask the child, read line, prompt here, are you feeling well? Yes or no. Simple, right? And then if to lower feeling well is equals to no, you break. If not, you can give her him or her one more sweet, right? And then you can print. Let me go back up and say, this is your sweet number. I'll copy this. Okay, let me scroll down. I'll paste this here. This is your sweet number of sweets, right? Number of sweets received, sorry. Number of sweet received, right, is equals to this, right? And as usual, if number of sweets received, I think I never put an S here, so number of sweets received is double equals to 8, then you just have to print you have received all the sweets you have received for the day, right? It's the same thing, just differently applied, right? It depends on the situation. So let's try one with all with yes. So let's start maybe with 6 sweets. Are you feeling well? Yes. Are you feeling well? Yes. You received 7. Okay, there's something wrong. Let me try this again. I think I typed something wrong. Okay, let's try this again. I received 6 sweets. I'm feeling well. Yes. Yes. 7, 8, and I have all the sweets. Now, say if I start with 6 again, but I'm feeling well for the 7th sweet, I'm not feeling well for the 8th sweet, I only receive sweet number 7, right? So you can see how this works, right? It's kind of self correcting, as it knows when to answer which one. Okay, so in that case, when it's 7 and you're not feeling well, it just stops at 7. But when you reach the 8th one, you'll see you've received all the sweets for the day. Moving on, quick practice. Okay, assign a for loop to evaluate the input from a user and only print out the non-vowel portion of the input. Then create a character variable name value. Use a for loop to loop through each letter of the name value and print only the non-vowels. Then complete and exit the for loop process. Try it out and we will resume very soon. Okay, how do we solve this problem? Right, basically you create a name value, right? And that is to lower. This is just to be sure, right, that whatever input you put is in a standardized format. And increasingly I'm teaching you a lot more concepts about standardization, right, to ensure that name formats that come in different formats are also corrected. So here, in whichever, whether it's caps or whether it's whatever, it always goes back into lower. Then I do a name value list, right? I do a name value list. I do a string split, right? Name value, and I need to split by an empty string, right? So an empty string will split everything into single letters, right? And I do a name value vector. Here is where I need to unlist my name value list, right? And then I need to have a vowel vector to check all my individual values. A, E, I, O, U. As simple as that, right? And I do a for loop for letter in name value vector, right? For letter and name value vector, right? If letter, remember doing this in vowel vector, I have to do a next, right? If not, well, good. I just have to cat the letter, print it out, END equals to N. That's it. And I do cat the for loop has been completed. Okay. When I do that, let's just put the name John, John, and it skips past the O in the name John. Yep. Okay. With that said, yep, we have come to the end of today's segment. Till next time. See ya. Bye.